Private investigators of Reddit, what is the most disturbing thing you've ever found in your line of work? I was hired by a woman named Eleanor, who was utterly convinced her husband David was cheating. We met in a sterile, high-end coffee shop where she didn't even touch her drink. She was cold, methodical, and handed me a thick file on David as if it were a corporate prospectus. It contained his entire schedule, his car's license plate, and a list of his friends. I don't need suspicions. I need irrefutable proof, she said, her voice devoid of any emotion. Our prenup has an infidelity clause. I need something that will maximize my settlement. It was chilling. This wasn't about a broken heart. It was a business transaction, and I was her hired gun. For 2 solid weeks, I thought I was just cashing the easiest check of my life. Tailing David was painfully boring. He was a high school music teacher whose life ran like a perfectly tuned metronome. He'd go to work, direct the school band with a goofy, infectious passion, stop for groceries, and go straight home. I was starting to believe Eleanor was just deeply paranoid. But then I found the deviation. Every Thursday without fail, he broke his routine. He'd drive to a rundown, neglected part of town and enter an old apartment building that looked like it had given up decades ago. He wouldn't emerge for hours. This had to be it. The secret life. The affair. I set up my surveillance post across the street, my telephoto lens becoming my window into his world. Through a grimy third-floor window, I saw David with a young woman, maybe in her early 20s. But the scene wasn't what I expected. He was sitting at an old, out-of-tune piano, and she was playing a violin, its wood scarred and worn. He wasn't her lover. He was her mentor. He was giving free lessons to a girl who played with a raw, desperate talent, but clearly couldn't afford a teacher. I watched him bring her bags of groceries, help her with her instrument, and patiently guide her through difficult passages. My job was to document, so I snapped photos of everything, knowing how it could be twisted. A shot of him placing a comforting hand on her shoulder after a frustrating attempt. A picture of them laughing together over a shared piece of music. From the right angle, an act of profound kindness could easily be framed as an intimate betrayal. After a month, I had a portfolio that could tell any story Eleanor wanted. When I laid the glossy 8x10s on the table in front of her, I braced for an explosion of anger. Instead, there was silence. She picked up a photo of David and the young violinist, a small, sad smile touching her lips. "So that's where he goes," she whispered, followed by a hollow, bitter laugh that seemed to echo in the quiet office. "He told me he was volunteering." She then looked at me, her eyes glistening. I met David when I was her age. I was a scholarship kid at a fancy conservatory, and he was the star pianist. He gave me free lessons because he said my talent was too big for my wallet. She pointed to a photo of David fixing the girl's violin bow. "He used to do that for me," she said, her voice cracking. She looked up, her face a complicated mask of shame and nostalgia. And that's when the entire case cracked wide open. Her phone, lying face up on the table between us, buzzed and lit up. The notification was from a contact named Mark, with a red heart emoji next to it. The message preview was damning. "Can't wait for our trip next week. He'll never know." Eleanor's eyes darted from the phone to me, and for a split second, I saw raw panic. The disturbing truth slammed into me. The cold demeanor, the business-like approach, her strange, wistful reaction to the photos. It all made sense. She hadn't hired me to find proof of his infidelity. She hired me hoping to find an excuse for her own. The most disturbing thing I ever found was a woman so desperate to justify her own betrayal that she tried to burn down the one good thing she had left in her life.